Hello, welcome to the 1990 series. My name's Amanda O'Shea from the Serendipity Experience, and I have with me the lovely Anita Grayson. Welcome, Anita.
Hi, Amanda. A little pupil.
The legend that was, the legend that is. Anita Grayson. I'll just fill in the guys. It's so lovely to have you, Anita. Thank you for being one of the 90 and 90, because I was just recently, actually, I met Anita. Was my PE teacher at school, for those of you that don't know Anita, a school in Highgate, La Santa Union Convent School. And when I was moving to Havia 13 years ago, somebody said to me, "Oh, Mrs Grayson lives in Havia." And I said, "Oh, great, I'll give her a call." And they said, "You can't just call Mrs Grayson." I was like, "Why not?" Because she's Mrs Grayson. But I did call you when I arrived in Havia. And it was so lovely for me to have, even though I remember saying to you, I think when I first contacted you, you probably won't remember me, because you have, thousands of girls, thousands of pupils. And although I was in a netball team or played a bit of tennis, I wasn't one of the stars, one of the elite performers, or one of the elite. But it was so lovely for me to have that connection when I came here, and I thank you for that, for making me feel really,
Although I did say to you, you're too young to come to Havia. Do you remember that when you said you were coming? And I said, you're too young.
I do. But I wasn't.
No, because you amazed me, because within, I don't know, 3 months you had a party. I don't know if you remember that, and there was about 150 people there, and I really laughed to say, yeah, she's really struggled establishing herself here.
I do.
And I take my words back, Amanda. Totally.
I do remember a welcome party. I love that. I love moving into a new home and filling it with energy and life. And I remember somebody saying, "Why are you having a party?" I was like, "Because I can. That's why."
Oh.
Because I can. We'd got that new villa up on La Corona. I remember that. Yeah. And I do remember. But I love that. I love people. I love connection. I love connecting people together. I love I love groups and crowds, and I buzz from that too. I love the excitement of that. And it's been so lovely to have you at my celebrations here, my 40th birthday party, my 50th birthday party, and you've got to see my brother's wedding, and you've got to see the girls from La Santa Union that have come to visit, and sure, that's been lovely for you. But the reason, Anita, why when I was having a little look at people that I really was excited to have a conversation with in this 1990 series, is you've always been one of those people that are there that I would call is have got your feet on the ground while you reach for the stars. But you're a realist. You're a woman full of common sense. And
Thank you, Amanda.
You are really good for me. You're a really good mentor. You are somebody that I've always felt I could, ask Anita, or run something by Anita, and not from a place of judgment, or not from a place of your personal opinion, but being able to listen. I think you're a really good, deep listener, and be able to, see things, which is from a very common sense sort of point of view. So I thank you for being that role for me since
really nice of you
since I've been here. And you are, because you're so lovely. The whole family's so lovely. You're all so lovely. But I saw that. I think the thing about, even when friends have, over the last 13 years from London, have come to visit me, and I'm like, "Oh, Mrs Grayson lives here," and it's lovely. You got to meet the Clorans and Debbie, Caroline and Lisa, and all of those guys. But you are always so much more than just the PE teacher.
Sure.
You were, and so you have it now. You had it then. So it's you. There's something in this character of Anita that sees the bigger picture. You have a gift to, I don't know how to describe it, but there's something you have to really bring people out of themselves and see the best that they are, and draw out that. I'm sure that everybody would agree with that. Anybody that's ever been a pupil of yours, been a colleague of yours. I had a lovely conversation with the headmaster of Lady Elizabeth the other day. I was talking about the iHeart program, Chris. And I said, the teachers that I knew, and I said, oh, you know, I used to be a pupil of Mrs Grayson, and he said, she's a legend, this Anita. She really is. She really is. And I know that they're absolutely, absolutely gutted, I suppose is the word, that you've retired. But yeah, I guess that's
the second time.
For the second time.
Because, you know, I count LSU as my school, and Lady Elizabeth was always just a joy, you know, but LSU was my school. So when I left there, I was heart-wrenching. But when I came to realize that, you know, enough was enough, a Lady Elizabeth sort of thing, I was ready. I was so shocked that they were all so upset and felt heart-wrenching. And I actually was just feeling, well, it's time, you know, for a change. It's quite interesting. But we'll go back to about what you were saying. And do you know, my mum, she always said to me, you had more common sense age 2 than I did. And she was a young mum. She was about 22 when she had me. And it's something that she always just said, that I, right from the beginning, really, from word go, that, I had this sensibleness, if you like. And for my mum to say that, I felt terrible that at 22, she was just at sea completely with a new baby. And as I got older, you know, I was telling her, age 2, what to do and the best way to do it or whatever. But you see, it does have a downside because you are very bossy. And my husband will tell you that it's very hard to live with at times, as will both my children. I think Andre said in his wedding speech, if you could just stop teaching just a minute.
Not be in teacher role.
Or just anything, whereas advice, I really have to, because sometimes they don't want advice, so you have to really rein it in, even though it's glaringly obvious what should be done. You just have to rein it in with your own crowd.
That is so true.
You have to wait for them to come to you. And
that is so true, because I think part of the iHeart program, you know, that's going to be delivered here now on the Costa Blanca, which is really exciting, is pointing everyone back to common sense, pointing children back, or, you know, parents back, but especially the children back to the wisdom they have inside of them. Yeah. You know, and the innocence they have, but also seeing that, you know, where did this come from? Our wish and want to impose our advice, our fix it, our you know, that we've got the answers that's right for somebody else more than they have. Like, if you can draw that out, like what you're talking about, the answer pops into your head, what is obvious to us. But if we can get them to see that obvious answer, they're going to listen to that more than they're ever going to listen to us. Because otherwise it feels like, oh, we're just the one who is telling them what to do, right? And if we
it is, unless someone specifically asked you a specific thing, that's fine. But it's more of a guidance, isn't it? It's just, you know, I can't tell you how many different, and don't forget, at LSU, it's very much a different time when a child actually could come to a teacher in a small space where nobody else would be around and tell you this secret, what to them was a terrible thing, maybe. Could be anything, could be just my parents are divorcing, something as simple as that. It's not so easy now because you can't really be alone or seem to be, but in those times it was quite okay for me to hear a secret and then they've told it, so that's the biggest thing, and then let it percolate. And you know, I would always say, well, I'm going to think about this now, and then, you know, let's come and see me tomorrow and we'll have another chat. And invariably it would be always to direct them to talking to their parents or the year head or someone that would, but I would be the first stop, which is quite a responsibility, you know, sometimes.
And an honour.
Yes, and of girls particularly, you know. But of course, you know, even amongst staff, when you are a leader, it's not just the children, it's about guiding the staff as well. And you know, I don't know if you knew this, but I had a young member of staff commit suicide at LSU.
Right.
Vibrant. I think about her every day. And I think, gosh, why didn't I spot that? Why didn't I see it? And she came in normal after the Easter holiday, an Irish girl, going to be married. She'd handed in her notice. She was going back to Ireland and everything. And this was meant to be a joyous time for her. And that last day, you know, she came in and she told me that her dad and her had been to the rugby in England. Then they went to Ireland for the Easter holidays and she came back for that day. To me, she just looked utterly normal, lovely and everything. And then that day, it was a terrible thing. She hung herself in the park in Whetstone. She didn't leave it. She didn't leave us a note. She left notes for her roommate and her parents. And for us in the department, and there were 4 of us at the time, we just couldn't make sense of it, that she couldn't have come to me and said, you know, that's how I felt. The others felt differently. But even to this day, I think, you know, she should have, if only she'd said, if only she did this, if only I'd seen, but there's no way of knowing what's going to happen to this person. So, and maybe if she had spoken to me, what advice could I have given to her? She would never say, I'm going to take my life, is she? Yeah. She might have said, I'm really unhappy or something. But as a leader, that always resonates with me, even now, you know, gosh, but you can't take responsibility for someone else.
Yeah.
She's obviously really desperately unhappy.
Yeah. And isn't that, thank you for sharing that, Anita. I'd never heard that. So you hid it well from the pupils. I'm sure that isn't something.
Oh my goodness, but the fallout. I've never had to be so strong in all my life. I couldn't believe it. It was announced, well, she was a form teacher. She ran the basketball teams. She used to take kids away at weekends because, you know, she didn't have any family in London. She was living in Whetstone and everything. So she did lots of things like that, you know, and lots of trips. And she was so lovely, and the kids adored her. So to have this announced assembly, and they just simply said she had an accident.
Right.
But then, you know, and if you can imagine 500 children's heads turning and looking to me as this is announced, and I have to remain calm, really.
Yeah.
I mean, but there it was, children were sent home and it was terrible. It was terrible. But then one of the sixth formers, whose parents always got an Irish newspaper, and of course it was in the obituaries.
Right.
So the sixth form came to me en masse. All the people that were in her volleyball teams and her A-level classes and all the rest of it. Why didn't you tell us? We didn't know. This is, you know, what can you say to these young women? Another young person, she was in her early 20s, had done this. They were devastated, but I really couldn't find the words. All I could be was empathy and just say, well, the way you're feeling, I can't tell you how we're feeling, you know. And it's something that just always stayed with me. And I thought, as a leader, gosh, what must it be like, you know, if it was anything worse than that? Horrendous.
It's so powerful, isn't it, to think that, you know, and I think that's why for me I'm so passionate about this iHeart program at the moment, because our suicide rate in our young people is going up and up and up. You know, we're not in a good way as a nation of our thinking, not understanding how our thinking works. And all I can, like, after, you know, what jumped into my head was what you told the girls at assembly, that it was an accident. felt like the right thing or the best thing to do at the time.
And they were young. This was the, you know, the really young children, 11 to 14.
But also in that teacher's mind, what her doing that at some point, that felt like the best thing to do. That felt like the best option she had available. But everybody around her could see that that's not the truth. But the misunderstanding of how our thinking system works means that when a thought pops into our head, it can look like it's truth. It looks like it's the best option. And I think when I work with people that have been in prisons or who are under some sort of charge, when I really get to see, oh my goodness, the only difference between me and them is that they've acted on a thought that I've had, but I haven't acted on it.
Sure.
You know, and I get to see the innocence, like a thought has popped in their head and they say, and that's what they do. So I think there's been many people have had those thoughts of, oh, I wish my life was over, or I'd rather check out, or I didn't sign up for this, or life is too difficult for me. Or, but actually doing something about it, you know. And so the more that people really understand, I think, that just because a thought pops in our head, it doesn't mean it's true. But it looks like that in the moment. If we're in a low place, you know, the more people we've got like you to point people back to common sense, and we can't save the world and we don't have to, that's not our job. But people like you around the community, people like you in the teaching world, it are gifts, really, really gifts to society. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I really love it when I, of course, used to go back to the Angel, Islington, where my parents still, well, they, of course, passed away a little while ago, and when they were living there, and I'd go into the building society, and this was so funny, and there was a girl, I know her name was Claudia, she was the manager of the Abbey National or Santander, and I'm at the counter, and I knew she played in a netball team and everything. I said to the girl on the counter, I went, I'm just checking, is that young lady's name Claudia? And she goes, yes. I went, it's okay, I used to teach her and everything. She was really busy, but she was on the floor, not behind the screen. And she had her back to me, and I went, Claudia, I do wish you'd stop talking. She went, Mrs Grayson.
This is
the manager of and she came up to me and hugged me and told everybody who I was and everything like that. And of course, so many kids worked at the Angel, came from that area of Islington and everything. So it was so terribly funny. And I've had been on a bus where an ex-pupil has seen me, and she, again, Mrs Grayson, I'm a barrister, I wear a wig. She tells me across the bus. It's joyous. It's all I can say. It's just
you really are. I think, you know, I'm actually look forward to people who will end up watching this conversation, because I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for just being you, and thank you for having, you know, all that, like you say, bringing out the common sense in others, bringing out the confidence in others, everything that you've done and are still doing, whether that was as a teacher or as part of the community, that, you know, it's happy is a better place for having people like you here. So, you know, what a lovely conversation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I hope.
I'm sorry I picked on a sad thing, but reading about iHeart, about that in a moment, a choice, you know, and even young children still have those choices of how they feel that day, how wounded they may feel about not being picked for a team, something, you know, the last one in the line, or you know, that feeling.
There is something about teaching children from a young age how the system works and seeing they're not victims. They're never victims. There's just stuff happening. You know? And the more I think we can keep, or we don't have to keep people aware. People have their own experiences. We don't have to be trying to run and control their experiences. This is not about everyone being happy all the time and everything being perfectly. It's about seeing life is lifing, and we get to life with it. And sometimes we don't need to even take the, you know, the bigger things so seriously. You know, but we do have, I do believe, and we're connected to our own wisdom, connected to common sense. We don't make as many silly mistakes. We don't create as much suffering for ourselves. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
You know, and we're in a world, and I think that's what I see. There is innocent suffering, and I feel very, very happy to be part of a team on a mission to, you know, let's see if we can lessen that suffering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So,
a very worthy ambition.
but you know what? I like the challenge.
Yeah, sure.
So Anita, thank you, Mrs Grayson, and I'll see you around town, but we'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.